Good morning, good morning. It's Robbie K's Reviews coming in with you with a double today. And we're going to start with the first one I saw last night called The Darkest Minds. Now, if you're new to the channel, the way that this kind of goes at the moment is we do a little bit of an introduction, then we kind of go into stage one, and then we go into stage two. If you're already a fan of the service, thank you very much. Hopefully you'll like and subscribe and keep me getting ideas so I can make better movies as well as come up with topics that you're interested in outside of just movie reviews. Regardless, welcome to Robbie's Movie Reviews, and today we're going to start with The Darkest Minds. Now, kind of the background information to this is we know that Hollywood is big on essentially taking books, especially those teenage books, and making them into movies. After the success of series like Lord of the Rings, which I know isn't necessarily a teenage book, but, hang with me for that. You've got the fact that we had Harry Potter, which of course is more of a young adult book now according to the age categories, and The Hunger Games. We had super popular films made that arose from these amazing books that kind of spurred the moment. Now, the biggest thing that comes with it is that when it comes to Hollywood, sometimes they knock it out of the park when they stick close to the book and take those imaginations that the people have a common interest in and a common visualization in and bring it to life, especially with good casting. But other times, and for me, that's the Divergent series, that's where they miss the mark because they try to take too much liberty or they go down a path that it probably didn't need to. Regardless, today's movie review is all about The Darkest Minds, and while I'm only a third of the way through the book via digital book, I know it's a very popular kind of young adult teen series that shows some promise with it. The question is, did Hollywood do a good job with it, or did they take it in the wrong direction again like we've seen some of the others? Well, Robbie's Movie Reviews is here to kind of give you his opinions and hopefully help you with your movie making decisions. Apologies for the fatigue, I was up late writing, and if you didn't like how I wrote, please give me another chance on that because of the fact that I was tired and I didn't write the best. Anyway, the first one, stage one, is your quick summary review. In all honesty, I would like to call the movie itself kind of a culmination of three movies. You have the romance interest from probably the Hunger Games, the Peeta and Katniss, or the Peeta and Gale at times. The Katniss and Gale at times. You kind of have that kind of component as a central focus. Think more of the Divergent series without the zombie in terms of setting in regards to kind of how the feel of it is, with kind of the power control of something like off of X-Men. It's very hybridized, and it's enjoyable and easy for kind of the target audience to be in without being overwhelmed. It speaks volumes to it, and it's just a fun, at times, drama with some good acting. It really kind of speaks true, and they did a decent job of making the thoughts of Ruby come to life, as well as portraying and visualizing the relationship bond between all the players in this interesting game of chess. However, the biggest thing that has at least me a little concerned for fans, especially if you're book series fans, is that it feels that the movie has done a lot of what I like to call connect the dots, jumping through these pertinent points, etc., because of kind of time constraints and the fact that the book itself, from what I've read so far, is a lot of being in Ruby's thoughts and kind of her take on the world, which is fantastic in book form, but not so much in movie, depending on how you execute it. And in truth, because it's so thought-based, there was a lot of parts that were skipped, that I felt that the story was in terms of execution, while the character relationships were thumbs up. In addition, the movie also has isn't that suspenseful. It's not that engaging, and the action is only subpar for me. But again, I understand this is more of a drama thriller sci-fi than an action thriller sci-fi. So I have to take into account, but I can't lie, is that this isn't the most engaging film outside of the character relationships. Now, the casting is showing promise, and of course, if this does well enough, they will put a new movie out. So, the other thing is don't expect a complete tale. And unlike The Hunger Games, where book one could kind of finish it off until you got to book two, this one leaves you on a big cliffhanger. So, don't expect a conclusion of that way either. Overall, it's fine. I have to agree with my fellow reviewers is that it's not the strongest film, and it's not the best book to movie change that I've seen in a long, long, long time. So I'll probably have to give it about a 5 in terms of that category. And in terms of movie overall, it's probably about a 4.5 because it's just missing some components to it. In addition, I can say that there are better book related movies, but, I'm rambling on for stage one, so let's get to stage two. Now, again, this is one of the more detailed ones. It's going to take time because we're looking at likes and dislikes and kind of picking apart the movie. And I'm going to say that probably I'm going to do my best not to spoil anything, so you've been warned. When it comes to the likes of this movie, again, you've heard me that I like the casting of it. And while it's not the strongest cast, it's no Jennifer Lawrence or, in the case of Harry Potter, Daniel Radcliffe. The main leads of the kids are actually done very well. The girl who played Ruby was actually very good choice because she had a good spectrum of being a good narrator voice. Maybe not as legendary as Morgan Freeman yet, but she has that kind of delivery in terms of mood, sombrance, and like a wise storyteller. But then when she's in the group, it feels like she's pretty much just a kid. In fact, all of them felt like they were brought out these quirks and personality traits that really kind of make it feel like they're these kids in this hard knock life, but still kids trying to be kids. So I think they accomplished that goal very, very well. Very happy with kind of the chemistry, especially the guy who played Chubbs, or Charles, since I haven't probably earned the right to say his nickname yet. He was my favorite because he kind of was like this comedic relief, but voice of reason at the same time, and not too much down the Bella and Edward of I'm gonna be this star-crossed, gooey-eyed lover. Anyway, it worked very well in terms of that. In addition, the pace is good. When we come up to these movies that have a lot of drama and detail to it, for me, sometimes they drag, especially with how many movies I see. And I gotta say that this movie only had a few parts of that for me personally, but at the same time, it moved very well. So, a jam-packed, thought-provoking book with a lot of internal thoughts actually did not feel like it was being taken that long. So I was very happy with kind of the pacing of the movie and the entertainment quality to that. In addition to it, I gotta say that, it's going to be cool seeing these trends come up, especially with color changing contacts as well as picture editing, but the eye effects were really cool. If you haven't seen the trailers, depending on what power you've inherited from this plague, you've got your eyes changing different colors. And while the orange one was okay, some of the other ones are actually pretty darn cool. So can't wait to see what's coming out of Comic-Cons, which will be at today, in the future with that. Anyway, outside of that, it's straight to the point. It does its job well in regards to delivering for the intended teenage audience. So I've got to give them props that they hit their mark pretty well. And I guess in terms of anything else in terms of likes, it's just a decent drama. I guess that's all I can say. I'm rambling here because I'm trying to grasp for straws, but in this it's kind of hard for me to do outside of good setting. Oh, and of course, the music. My apologies. The music was actually my favorite part. I felt that it was very fitting of the scene, added some energy to it. I really liked the end song, Come Find Me. And in all honesty, I just absolutely felt that it added the extra emotional kick it needed. So, bravo to the music editor and the casting editors, because they're kind of my strongest likes outside of everything else. So that's about all I can say in terms of what I really liked about the movie that's mentioning. Let's get to the dislikes. Well, if you heard my stage 1 review, one of the biggest things that's bad about this movie for me is the story. And I get it. It can be a very dense thought book, so it's very hard to portray internal thought on the big screen. And I get that. But the challenge is this is where creative liberties come in, and I don't think they used them very well. The Darkest Minds kind of was, like I said earlier, connecting the dots. One plot point, then go to this plot point, then go to this plot point, yada, 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 yada. And it just felt very disjointed, very unconnected, and the build-up was just kind of lacking. And while that's good from a pace point, it didn't work for me in terms of a delivery, like story wise component. If that's not bothering you too much, the biggest thing is once you get to those epic points, it kind of felt like you were reading the Spark Notes version of the book because it was over and done very quickly. Almost like those times in the Hunger Game books where at the end of every chapter there's that like massive paragraph where something big happens and then you go to the next chapter and it's trying to resolve itself very quickly. That's what happened with this movie. And if that's how the book happens as I continue reading, then okay, give them props because they followed the source material. But otherwise, this movie needed a little better build up in terms of it and more of just actually doing something with the scene. This kind of brings me to the action suspense is that there's not that much. You get to these points that are supposed to be tense, and I just kind of sat there thinking, well, I know what's going to happen now. They're going to blaze right through it. And without any thought, word, deed, and completion, it just didn't execute well for me. And as a result, I was a little bored at the movies at this time because, again, it became more about the love interest than it became about the surrounding events. And in the dystopian universe, you kind of have to have both for me as opposed to one over the other. So the suspense part didn't work, and I think part of that is going to be where my other dislike is coming in, so hold out for me on that. In terms of the action, there's not that much. There's a couple of good moments that I'll give them props for doing. This combination of special effects, grandiose acting, and again, that musical composed to really bring it out. But outside of that, they're short-lived, they're not that intense, and in all honesty, it's kind of boring and underwhelming. I hate to say it, but it's kind of like a staring contest most of the time. And again, while the visual effects are cool, I'm looking for a little more. Think again, Hunger Games, some of the Harry Potters, Lord of the Rings. We have those scenes that make the waiting worthwhile. And that didn't happen for me in this case. So sorry, not sorry in terms of the criticism, but it didn't work out for me. Whereas if it's in the book form, either I can go on and take the creative liberties, or I can accept it for what it is because I'm not spending 2 hours sitting there watching them kind of do nothing. Anyway, I think the biggest thing I didn't like about this is I think they banked on this series being too popular and trying to leave things for the continuing books. While the ending has a fantastic musical score and a good monologue with it, I think their dependence on going for the next couple of movies really short-sighted this book as well. Because of that, I think a lot of these what could have been suspenseful scenes that they could have kind of teased out, perused, and potentially pursued better, I guess, follow-up with it in terms of trying to cover the plot holes. It failed because I think it was looking for, we're going to do this in the next one, in the next one. If it's not popular, we have a lot of unanswered questions and plot holes in it. And I think that was where they went wrong, to be honest. Outside of that, in addition to it, some of the other characters that they put in and hinted at really weren't necessary for me. Whether it would be one part of a faction or not, even Mandy Moore's character didn't feel like she was needed, and I love her as an actress. One, because I feel she has some good personality, and two, I find she's very cute with those amazing sparkling eyes. But, outside of those components, I just feel that the movie failed on that delivery. Anyway, let's wrap this up because we're almost at 14 minutes. The truth is that Darkest Minds does what it does, and it's going to target the audience of those who are teenagers, in-between-agers, and kind of looking for that romance compatibility that, Twilight, some of the Harry Potter, and definitely Hunger Games and Divergent brought. It's going to hit those heartthrob feelings very, very quickly, but at the same time, it's going to be, I think it was looking too far down the road. It's not fully complete. It is what it is, as my friend Rashad would say, you get what you're kind of looking for in the trailer, and again, it's not like it's an awful movie, but I feel that when you compare it to other movies that have better pacing and better plot development, especially like Catching Fire, which is one of the best adaptations, I feel, this one just didn't have the sustenance. And again, if that's what it's in the book, which again, I'm only a third of the way through, fine, I understand. But if you can even have any inkling that it could have been more exciting and and down pat. Hate to say this, but they really should have taken some creative liberties and added some Hollywood action and suspense and fillers to kind of at least let this movie stand on its own. Anyway, is it worth a trip to the theater? I can't necessarily say it is unless it's kind of like a date night for the target audience. Otherwise, you're better off um, utilizing your own um, utilizing your own time to go see a better movie, or wait for this one to come out on Redbox. In fact, if you'll hold out for a minute, I'm going to be putting up another review of a movie I think is much better worth your time. Anyways, guys, if this is your last one for me today, have a good day, good weekend. Please comment, like, share, subscribe. I'm new to this whole thing. I'm trying to get better. So to do that, I need you guys, please spreading the word, sharing, and helping me just make these reviews better for whatever you guys are interested in. I understand editing is a big thing. I'm working on the time stuff right now, so I'm trying to just do these face-to-face ones like I've seen people do until I get the time to get the programs and make the better editing software. I know I'll never be a Matt Pat or an angry black nerd, but I'm doing my best, so I could always use the help and feedback. Anyways, guys, have a great day, and leave comments as you can. Thanks. Bye.